Yo, yo, ma, what's up, everybody? So I was practicing today and I legitimately had an insight that I've never had before as far as tuning the instrument. I genuinely think that it's really helpful because I was able to open up and be way more in control. So I just wanted to make a quick video in line with actually trying to help you guys learn how to do a little bit more of what I do with the cello, the improv side, especially, but I think this is helpful regardless because there is a big misconception about tuning with cello. I basically feel like people are teaching it incorrectly, and today I'm going to teach you how to tune perfectly so that you're ready to play perfectly in tune. Roll the intro.
Hi kids, do you like violence? Do you want to see me stick both my bows through this one-of-a-kind hit?
All right, that's the intro. We are sticking with it for this series. I hope that's all right. All right, so let's get into it. So I had to grab the camera setup, so my cello should be a little out of tune. So the thing that I noticed, the thing that I hadn't necessarily noticed before, is because when I start practicing, I want to establish what I'm, doing with the instrument. So I just wanted to play octaves with the thumb on the half octave position of the string, if that makes sense. So I was basically just trying to do. All right, now you might have noticed that the first two are kind of out of tune. That's because the strings are out of tune currently. So at first I was questioning my muscle memory, but as I worked out, because you can adapt how you play to make the strings sound in tune even if they're not. As I try to do that, my fingers literally have to move. So I'll zoom in so that you can believe me or whatever, but oh, that's a little too much. I'll go slow. Okay, so we've established the tuning there, but let's go one string lower with, the normal muscle memory for the same gap between the hands, right? Now it's too wide. Okay, I'm trying. And I have to go up. So if you can see that, my thumb is actually having to move up just slightly to make this work. Now, the reason why this was kind of an insight for me is that I had just tuned up, but I think I did it in a way that wasn't careful enough to avoid this pitfall. So what's the pitfall? And what's the way that people are taught cello that I think is wrong? So not everybody's taught this way, and if you weren't, awesome, you had a better foundational start than me, but let me know in the comments how smart you are. Anyway, so the way that I was taught to tune was basically one of two ways. One is you tune the A string to a tuner, and then you tune the D string by also playing the open A string and try to establish that perfect fifth sound, which is a 3-to-2 ratio in Pythagorean tuning. The other way that I was taught how to do it, or at least to check, because this is very helpful for beginners, so this is kind of a beginner strategy, is to play the harmonic that's the same enharmonic note. Because if you play the half harmonic on any string, it's the same as playing the, well, I should say, so if you're playing the first partial, which is to say the octave harmonic, it's the same as playing the fifth partial, or whatever. Am I saying that right? Sorry, I'm not sure exactly about how partials relate to the intervals, I guess, but a third of the way up the string, a fifth from the bottom of the string up, that harmonic, it also exists 2/3 of the way up. But pretty much the same note as that. Now I say pretty much because unfortunately we don't tune these days, or at least we don't tune in Pythagorean tuning, unless you're doing barbershop or you're Jacob Collier or you're me, frankly, because I do try to do a blend of stuff. But nonetheless, I play a lot of jazz, I play a lot of modern music, and it's unavoidable that if you were playing differently from what, say, a piano would be playing in the group, pianos have to play the same note with the same exact frequency that it's tuned to. Well, you have to adjust to that because otherwise you're the one that sounds wrong. The piano is so consistent that you're going to sound wrong. So this is kind of the core problem of tuning your strings to open fifth, because that perfect 3-to-2 ratio is actually 2 cents off of the equal tempered ratio. It's a little too wide. And this is basically what causes the famous wolf, if you've ever heard that. And if you don't know, a cent is 1/100th of a half step, whole step, half step, half step. 50 cents is a quarter tone, and 100 cents is your normal chromatic step. All right? Does that make sense? So 2 cents is 2/100ths or 1/50th of the difference between two adjacent chromatic notes. So this is a very slight thing, but here's the thing. It adds up. It compounds. If you tune the D string 3:2 ratio with the A string, it's 2 cents flat. And now if you tune the G string to the D string's now 4 cents flat. And if you tune the G string to the C string is now 6 cents flat. And people wonder why the cellos always have to check their C strings in orchestra and tune them up massively, and then it's crazy out of tune with the G string. And it's because all the cellists were tuning their cellos incorrectly. And that resulted in, by the time it gets to the C string, it's massively flat compared to what the rest of the orchestra is playing. So how do we fix this? Well, basically, you have to be able to do both, I think, because at least the way that I was getting it to work earlier when I was like, all right, so I need to correct for this, was actually to first establish that 3/2. Now, I've spent a lot of time in DAWs, digital audio workstations, and I've spent a lot of time trying to, pitch correct things that get a little bit off. And I sounded Brooklyn Dive for a second, like, woof. Anyway, spent a lot of time doing that. And so I've gotten pretty good at being like, yes, I need to just push this up 8 cents or 6 cents or whatever. That has helped a lot. So you do need to kind of train that too, because you're going to have to tell yourself, establish it and then tune up 2 cents. Okay? So let's start by establishing our area. Now, personally, I bought one of these physical guys. I think this is amazing. I have pretty much perfect pitch, and yet just making sure that I'm actually nailing the 440 tuning, because there are different tunings, and so my ear actually can accommodate, for example, quarter note off tuning, all these different tunings. So they're like Baroque tuning is almost a whole step flat, or a half step flat, but not even a full half step flat. So I have all these different tunings in my head. And this does help keep track of that for playing with music that's tuned to A440. And the other nice thing about it is you actually get vibrational feedback response with your instrument. It's actually resonating the instrument through the bridge. All right. So our A is actually pretty good. And pretty good is good in this case, because every time you tune your strings, the scroll box has a little bit of different amount of tension on it. And then you're out of tune again. Welcome to the world of cellists, where we are always out of tune to somebody. I posted a video recently, and I was so proud of it, and somebody was like, intonation. I was just like, all right. I mean, yeah, there's like a moment where I'm doing a little bit of a bluesier, like lower thing, but like the control of the pitch is there. Anyway, it's just so annoying. But anyway, so let's do this. So first, so this is not in tune, right? Especially not Pythagorean in tune. So let's try to get that. That sounds pretty good. So let's check with the harmonics. Right? So those sound the same. So ironically, it was actually in tune to what we need to do before. So I'm just going to do like a... I got to zoom in. This is how much we're going to turn it, okay? We go boop. That was before. Boop. That's after. So it's like an eighth of a radial turn, perhaps. At least on my cello, that's gonna be the about the amount the 2 cents is. So you can hear the difference. It's just ever so slightly higher now, but passable, because the equal temperament is a very close approximation of these exact fractional intervals. So let's now do the same thing with the next string. So now this is actually in tune, but let me show you how to do it from the 3/2. So it's still a little bit sharp. And actually, if you're wondering a good trick for this, so you can hear additive vibration. So basically, the perfectly in tune strings vibrate like exactly 3/2, right? You'll have 2 waveforms, and then you'll have 3 on the top. If you're off from that, you are going to hear a superimposed wolfing that has the rhythmic amount of hertz that you are off. I know that sounds kind of confusing, but let me just, I don't have long enough arms or whatever to do the tuning thing, but let's tune it off. I'll sustain the note and you'll hear the thing. Now it's subtle. That's because the resonance of the instrument kind of over carries it, but there's that subtle pulsing that happens throughout there that doesn't happen when it's Pythagoreanly tuned. But now we're going to do the same. And it's, again, just barely passable and actually in tune to what we're going to be playing with recordings. Let's do the final string. Oh, that's a good way to do it too. If you strike the harmonic, and the way to let it ring is to lift your finger as soon as you've played it, then you'll be able to tune and still hear what's going on. So that's a good trick. When I was showing you, how to do that. Now, let's go back and test with our tuner, not only how the A sounds, but also how the C sounds compared to the A. So see how all those notes are passable now. So now, things are where I expect them to be, and now I can think just in terms of the ideas that I want to play. And I don't have to be adapting my hands over the different strings because I've locked in the muscle memory with years of practice. That's essential, of course. But I've now tuned the strings, not just passably in tune, but the same amount difference per string. I hope that makes sense. I hope this video makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't, and I'll do some sort of follow-up. God, I love talking about intonation. It is fascinating and complex and involves very complicated aspects of physics. And yeah, it's also like the first thing that you hear with these instruments. I remember like for the first 10 years of not just playing cello, but of taking cello seriously. I started cello when I was 6 and I started taking it seriously when I was 16. And for the first like 10 years of that, I was basically just like 100% like normal people being like, oh, that's out of tune, that's out of tune. I feel like I'm playing, I feel like I try to play into whatever. I get it. Some of it is our brain oversimplifying different musical elements that we're hearing and just calling it pitch. Some of it is what I've said of the impossibility of either being in tune to your instrument or being in tune to the band. And learning how to balance that takes, you have to just practice so many different specific combinations of patterns and stuff to make it actually work and whatever. So kind of what it is. But I hope this video was instructive, informative, and I hope I did a decent enough job miking it this time. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching, subscribing, and commenting. I love you.